pleased with it, proud of it. But that was just not his world. We were not on the same wavelength. So here, by luck, I come across this man who's a great writer and a famous writer. And he tells me, you write well. And that was just a huge thrill to make that discovery. Well, as love at first sight often is, it's wrong. It's a little wrong. And as time passes, you discover where the mistakes in your first impressions were. And that's a lot of the sort of the plot of the book, how this came about, how that played out. And then after you make a discovery like that, then you have to deal with the results of it. Robert Frost said, we love the things we love for what they are. But to do that, we have to know what they are. We have to understand what they really are first. And so there was a long process, both for me and for Bill, of realizing who the other one actually was, and then reestablishing a relationship on that basis. And I'm happy to say I believe we did. I want to end with the one occasion where I got to tell him to his face and in public what he meant to me. And this was in 1991, right after he'd stepped down as editor of National Review. And Henry Kissinger, an old friend of his, said he would throw him a party at Kissinger's apartment, which is on East 52nd Street. It looks over the East River. It's one of these master of the universe New York views. And Kissinger said to Bill, you may draw up the guest list. And Bill did a very Bill-like thing. He said, I want all the guests to be my younger colleagues. He didn't want to have another dinner with his chums from Yale. He wanted this to be for his younger colleagues. And I was like the third oldest person in the room. I mean, Bob Tyrrell was older, and Chris Buckley was older, but and everybody else was my age or younger. And the other Bill-like thing was that Bill made Kissinger sing for his supper, even though Kissinger is giving the meal. But Bill has him get up and say, now, Henry, will you tell us about the world? And, Kissinger gave a tour d'horizon of his view of the world at that moment. And then, afterwards, there was kind of a sort of a pause moment. And one of my friends leaned over to me and he said, Rick, you should give a toast. And I'd actually been thinking about that. I mean, I knew the sort of dinner this was and how it was likely to end. And the toast I gave, and I'll give you the more complete version, more complete than I could do in the book, because it involves a poem by William Butler Yeats. And my editor said, look, if you're going to quote as many lines of this poem as you intend to quote, you're going to have to go to Yeats's publishers and get a permission. And I'd done that once before, and I didn't want to jump through that hoop again. So I paraphrased a bit, but here's the whole deal. The poem I had in mind is one of the last ones that Yeats wrote, and it's called Beautiful Lofty Things. And the beautiful lofty things are people he has known in his life. Mostly people older than himself, some of them the same age. He wrote this when he was in his 70s. And it's a wide array of people. One of them is a drunk. And the lines about him are, stand to show Grady, supporting himself between the tables, speaking to a drunken audience high nonsensical words. And another one is one of his lovers. And those lines are, Maud Gunn at Howth Station, waiting a train. Pallas Athena and that straight back and arrogant head. And another one is his own father. And Yeats's father was a famous Irish painter. And he recalls a moment in his father's life when there was a controversy over the Playboy of the Western World. This was just being premiered in Dublin. And Irish nationalists decided that this play was disrespectful to the Irish peasantry. It's set in Western Ireland. And the Irish nationalists decided to make a party matter of this. So at the opening night, there was just so much chaos in the audience, so much noise and hooting. You know, you couldn't hear a word of the play's lines. And I think this happened a second night in a row. And Yeats's father was an Irish nationalist too. He thought this was just barbaric, and he was enraged. And he confronted the nationalists. And Yeats describes it. He says, "My father on the Abbey stage, before him a raging crowd, this land of saints," and as the applause dies out, "of plaster saints, his beautiful mischievous head thrown back." And I said, "Bill, it's not my place to describe your head, but I've never known anyone more respectful of real saints or more disrespectful of plaster saints, and that's been beautiful." So thank you very much, and I'll answer any questions.